Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about militia movements. So the scenario is that it's the mid-1980s. The United States has been invaded by the Soviets and the Cubans, and they are occupying half of it. Okay, and we have a bunch of teenagers that are caught behind enemy lines. They have formed a militia, and they're fighting the communists. Okay, so that's our scenario. Of course, I'm talking about the movie Red Dawn. I've been doing a couple of videos where I look at realistic militia scenarios that would work for our teenage militia fighters. And the key component is that these tactics have to be simple. Okay, and the reason is because our militia fighters may, although they may be individually skilled with a rifle and a pistol, they're not skilled in terms of fighting as a unit. And they're not going to really have the opportunity to train as a unit because they're in occupied territory. So if they do any live fire, exercises, it's probably going to bring in a lot of attention. So basically, they're not going to get a chance to really practice that much. So we have to use tactics that are really simple. In the past, I talked about ambushes. I talked about the L ambush. I talked about the V ambush. And the benefit of the ambushes is that we're able to get our people into position in advance, okay, get our people where we want them to be, set up fallback positions, and we're able to initiate the attack, okay. And we like I said in previous videos, we're keeping our attack short, 2 minutes or 130 round magazine, and then we're getting out of there, okay. So with the ambushes, we have control in the sense that we get to initiate and we have a plan to get out. When we're moving through an area, where we think there might be enemies, even though we may be somewhat familiar with the area, we don't know exactly where the enemies might be. We don't know at what point, we're going to run into them and the shooting is going to start. So we have to proceed cautiously, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at two methods that professional militaries use, bumping and bounding. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and modify these two methods to make it work for our militia unit. Professional militaries have the opportunity to train as units for many months before they get into a combat zone. Okay, so again, our militia unit is not going to have that opportunity. But let's take a quick look at these two methods, because it will kind of help us a little bit down the road. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to accomplish kind of the same thing, but in a simpler way. Okay, so I have here a map. The triangles represent trees, and then the rocks over the circles over here represent like big boulders or some type of landscape that we can hide behind. And then up here I have a road. Right, there's a road. You can see, these are three buildings over here. Okay, so this is like a street. And then I have like the small boxes or squares represent like trucks or cars. Okay, so I have a four-man unit, pink, yellow, gray, and blue. Okay, and we're going to be moving these guys around. Later on, we're going to be moving them through the forest because it's safer. But initially, I'm going to move them up through the street, just so that I can give you guys a quick demonstration of these two methods, the bumping and the bounding. And there's plenty of videos on the internet that go into these two methods in detail, but I'll just do a quick refresher here. So with the bumping method, what we want to do is we're preserving the order of the unit. Okay, so in this case, the pink over here, okay, he's my commander. Okay, and because let's say he's more experienced than the other people, we want to keep him up front where he can observe and make command decisions and decide which direction he wants to move in, if he wants to engage or not. So that might be a reason why we would want to use the bump method and preserve this order. So using the bump method, if we want to cross this opening over here, right, this white here is an opening, is a street. What's going to happen is yellow's just going to come up a little bit so that he can look down. Right, he can look down this street over here, so he can provide. He has a line of sight, so he can provide cover fire. And then what's going to happen is pink is going to cross. Okay, and then what's going to happen is gray is going to come up. Okay, so now gray is providing observation and basically cover fire if necessary, and then yellow is going to be able to move across. Okay, And now the next man is going to be gray. In order for that to happen, blue is going to come up. Okay, blue is now providing cover, and gray is able to cross. Okay, and now gray is going to be providing cover back this way while blue crosses. Okay, so we were maintaining the same order. Okay, pink is still first. Okay, so now really quickly we're going to look at the bounding method. Okay, with the bounding method, we don't care about the order, and the reason why we may not care about keeping that same order is because all 4 men in this unit are equally competent, all equally experienced, all able to make command decisions, all able to look down the street over here, or or decide where the next position that they need to move to. Okay, so since we don't care about keeping the order, what's going to happen is pink's going to come up. Okay, so now since pink is the first one up here, he's looking down the street. He's going to be providing observation and cover for everyone. Okay, so yellow's going to come up, right? So he's providing. Yellow's going to come up. He's going to bound past them, right? So he's bounding. He's going to move up over here, all right? Then basically gray's going to come up. Blue's going to move up that way. Gray's going to cross next. Everybody's going to move down over here. Okay, the next man up is blue. Okay, and again blue's going to cross. Okay, and then blue is now providing observation back that way, and then pink is able to cross. Okay, so pink is now last. So whoever was first ends up being last once you move past some opening. Okay, so that's the bounding method. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my militia fighters and I'm going to move them down here because we really don't want to be moving them through an open street. Let me get these guys down here. Okay, so we want to get to the same point over here, but we're going to use this forest for cover. Okay, with the militia, okay, usually you're going to have 2 people that are going to be experienced in the way I've been talking about. Right? You're going to have the commander, okay, and then we're going to have the designated marksman. I've been calling him the sniper in previous videos. So we have 2 people that are experienced, probably veterans, that are in a position to make command decisions, and everybody else is basically just tagging along and doing whatever they're told to do. So with the bump method, basically pink's going to go first. Okay, he's going he's going to move up, and basically we're just moving along like that. Now we may decide that, let's say if that's our sniper, we're going to put him in the back. We're going to put yellow over here. This way we've got it. So we have the commander, a newbie, okay, and then the sniper in the back, covering the rear. So we got the 2 new guys in the middle over here, okay, and the commander, who's pink over here, he's in a position to move up and and decide where he wants to go, how he wants to proceed. So he can go there. And basically everybody's just getting bumped up. What may happen is that when pink gets to this position, he may decide that, hey, I want to get up there, but it looks like there's less coverage over here, so he may decide to come back down this way, okay? And then from there, everybody's just going to follow him, and he might decide to take this route, okay? The reason why this is significant is if we were using the bounding method where the order kept changing, if yellow was up here, yellow, because of he's less experienced, may have decided to come across this open area over here and put everybody at risk. So this is a scenario why we would want to use the bumping method as opposed to the bounding method where we're constantly mixing people up. Now the thing is, this is a 4-man unit. In the previous videos I was that I did regarding the ambushes, I was usually working with a unit anywhere from 6 people to 10 people. The reason is because when the military uses 4-man units, okay, they call them fire teams, because they have more training, okay, they're able to have 2 separate fire teams, right? So a total of 8 men divided into 2 fire teams of 4. And they're able to move them independently, and because of their their training and their ability to communicate with each other, they're able to move 2 separate fire teams let's say from different directions, and have them converge somewhere at the same time. In our case, because we're working with a far less trained militia unit, we really don't want to split up our team. So that's the reason why I want to keep them together. Now, the problem that presents itself, right, is if I have an 8-man team, okay, and now basically what I have here is a snake with a very long tail that's moving through the woods. And my men end up being very spread out. And what's going to happen is if the enemy does happen to see them and start attacking, what's going to happen is the team is going to get split up. So I really don't like the idea of stretching my team out over such a long area using this bumping method either, where if there's an attack at the center, they're going to end up going in different directions. And basically, they're going to end up getting lost and killed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this. Let me pull these guys back. So I'm going to modify this so that I have my pink is my commander, yellow is my sniper, okay, and then the blue back here represents everybody else. Okay, blue can basically be 5 or 6 other people that are going to be clustered together. So what we can do now is my suggestion for this militia would be to move as a 3-person unit. So pink will go up, and they can use either bumping or bounding. We can have a situation where they're preserving the order. Okay. Okay, or we have a situation where, let's say, once pink gets over here, yellow's going to bound over him and get to that position there. Okay, then this guy will he's going to basically just bump up. Okay, then pink is going to bound over him, come over here, and then he's going to bump up. So we're using it kind of like a hybrid, bumping and bounding because of this setup. Why would they choose bump? Between these two guys, one of the benefits I think of bumping is that when you're bumping, it kind of gives the man a chance to rest a little bit. Okay, so I don't know how far the distance is between these two trees. So this guy's gonna run up to here, take a short rest, while this person comes up to here, takes a short rest. With the bounding method, what happens is that yellow, who's a sniper in this case, has to run completely past pink to the next location up. So when you're bounding, you tend to run a longer distance. Okay, so that might be a disadvantage, but that's something that these two will have to decide between themselves, because he's the commander, he's the sniper. They're both highly experienced people. They're able to decide what's going to work best for them given the terrain, the situation. But the rest of the team is basically just following behind. They're bumping along behind them. In a situation where they start taking fire, like let's say they're discovered, what's going to happen is that the commander will tell these guys just get out of there, right? So these guys are basically just gonna run them because they're all together now, so they can run as a group back. And what will happen is that the commander and the sniper are going to provide cover fire. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna peel back. So what's gonna happen is in this position here, pink is gonna provide cover fire, right? So that yellow can run back to here. Then yellow is going to be providing cover fire so that pink can get back here. So in that way, then pink is providing cover fire so yellow can get back here. So these two people here, the commander and the sniper, because they are more experienced, they're able to provide cover fire to get everybody else out, through peel back methods. If what we definitely don't want is everybody trying to peel back, because if we're trying to back up here, okay, and these guys back here who are not as experienced, if they try to provide cover fire, because of their inexperience, what's going to happen is we're going to end up with a lot of friendly fire. Okay, these guys here are going to start shooting each other in the back. They'll start shooting these guys in the back. So because these guys are less experienced, we just want to get them out of there. Okay, and then these two guys who are experienced are going to provide cover for each other get each other, to get each other out. Okay, so those are my thoughts on militia movements, and some of the concerns that I have as far as moving them around. And my two main concerns is, avoiding friendly fire and not getting our units lost. So the way we're not going to get lost is we're going to keep all our newbies together, and we're just going to rely on the commander and the designated marksman. We're going to rely on those two to kind of take charge and decide where people need to move, and make all the command decisions. So they're my thoughts on this. If you guys have any different ideas, please share them. This is kind of like a work in process. Movement is the most complex part, because like I said earlier, with an ambush, you set it up, you wait for the enemy to come to you. You have the advantage. When you're trying to move, it can be very, very difficult and dangerous. A lot, like on a couple of occasions, I've done these type of drills. And of course, first you go through them, with dry. You don't use live fire. What happens is, initially everybody looks a little bit sloppy, and then what happens is, after you run through it a couple of times, okay, fine. Now everybody basically learns the routine. They learn where they have to go. So you set up a couple of trees that you have a couple of trees you got to run through. You set up a couple of barrels. And everybody gets really good at moving around those set obstacles. Now you take those same people and you move them to a different part of the woods where the trees are spaced out a little bit differently, or maybe there's no trees. Now you have some hills. Maybe you have all of a sudden people start getting really confused. They're not sure what cover they should be using, how far they should be bumping up, or how far they should be bounding. How far is too far? So things get really confusing really fast as you try, as you start moving people around to different locations. With the military, when they practice their movement, they'll practice, let's say in one area, let's say in a forested area, then they'll go use these same techniques. They'll do room clearing. Then they'll go, let's say, to a desert area. They'll go to an area that has lots of bushes. They'll go to an area, where the trees don't have any leaves on them. So they train. They use these what appear to be simple tactics of bounding and bumping. They use these for many months at different locations. So they start building up a certain experience. So when they do get into a combat zone, people have the experience to instantly recognize in their mind that, hey, this scenario kind of looks like that place that I trained at. So they're able to kind of make that connection. With our militia fighters, we can train them in a certain area where the trees have a certain layout, but then you take them to a totally different area where they don't have trees, or and all of a sudden there's a lot of confusion. So that's the problem with trying to move a militia around. Unless they have a lot of experience, they tend to get really confused, and then they start getting in each other's way, and then you have the possibility for friendly fire. So that's why I kind of came up with this idea, where you have, let's say your total team is about 8 people, and I said why it had to be 8 to 10 people, because you can't have like two 4-man fire teams, because they're just going to get lost. You can have one team go one way, the other team go the other way, and they're not going to be able to communicate with each other. I'd rather keep everybody together, but have, let's say, 2 veterans, right? A commander and a sniper, and basically everybody else bunched together, and they're sort of moving around as a, even though it's 10 people, they're really moving around like a 3-man team. So there are my thoughts on that. If you guys have any different ideas, please post it.